Chapter 9. The City of Ears. The sound of fur float never slept. By the time the sun climbed above the stilted rooftops, the kingdom was already awake. Boats bumping, gulls scolding, dogs singing work songs that never agreed on the same key. Eldan Rootwell, the hedgehog who once preferred quiet soil and polite ferns, stood on Mara Tidepaw's dock beside Lyra the goat, blinking in the brilliance of it all. The air smelled of salt, rope, and fried fish. The canals shone like ribbons of glass. The previous night's welcome had been overwhelming. Laughter, music, lanterns flaring, until the waves themselves seemed to join in. Yet beneath that joy, Eldan felt something out of place. A pause between beats, a hesitation too small for anyone else to notice. The sea was listening to itself and not liking what it heard. Mara, the husky captain, strode down the dock, a map tube under one arm, and her cap tilted against the glare. Her second, Pip Quick-Spoke, a wiry terrier whose vest pockets bulged with wrenches and crumbs, trailed behind, carrying a breakfast plate and a running commentary. "Coffee that tastes like this," Pip offered, "guaranteed to make you question your life choices." Lyra grinned and accepted the cup. After the mountain, anything liquid that isn't molten counts as luxury. Mara smiled, but her tail twitched once, a tell of unease. Something's wrong with the tides. The markers drifted in the night. Half our buoys woke up 3 lengths west of where they slept. Eldan frowned. Currents don't just forget themselves. Exactly. Mara unrolled the map, revealing tangled ink lines of channels and reefs. The sea's heartbeat used to run in a steady 3-beat rhythm. Now it skips. Sometimes it doubles back. Lyra traced the lines with a hoof. Echo interference. The water's reflecting its own sound wrong. Pip tilted his head. "Can water have an echo?" "Everything that listens can," Eldan said quietly. Mara's ears twitched. "You sound like Captain Brine." "Who's Captain Brine?" "Our oldest mariner," Mara said. "Walks slower than tides change, but his stories bite harder. He keeps the lighthouse of memory. If the sea's arguing with itself, he'll know which side started shouting." "Then we'll go," Eldan said. "Take Pip," Mara said. "He talks enough to keep ghosts away." Pip saluted with a biscuit. And seagulls, the lighthouse of memory, rose on the far edge of the harbor, built from white stone streaked with shells and shipwreck brass. Inside, the air tasted of candle soot and salt. The steps wound up like a seashell spiral, each landing marked by plaques of ship names. The Plover's Luck, Tide Whisper, Hope's Teeth. At the tower's heart rested the Pearl of Tides, a massive orb the size of a fishing barrel, cradled in a frame of driftwood and chain. Its surface should have gleamed with translucent gold and blue, but instead it swirled cloudy gray like stormlight trapped under glass. A figure waited beside it, an elderly beagle with a torn ear and fur the color of old parchment. He leaned on a cane that looked like it had once been a mast. Captain Brine? Eldan asked. The beagle smiled without turning. Who else would haunt this place at my age? His eyes, still sharp despite the years, flicked to Eldan's satchel. You brought mountain light with you. Eldan drew the crystal shard, its glow faint, echoing the heartbeat of the pearl. A gift, he said, or a question. Brine nodded. Same thing, in the end. He gestured to the pearl. This should be singing. It listens to every current, every tide, and reflects the world's rhythm back to itself. But lately it's been swallowing the song. The sea's forgotten its own voice. Lyra leaned close. Can it be repaired? Brine tapped the pearl with the end of his cane. A dull thud answered. Not with tools. The pearl doesn't break. It sulks. And the longer it broods, the more it feeds the thing whispering beneath. Eldan's quills lifted. You know of it? The Whisperer? Brine said softly. A legend old as foam. They say it was once a guardian of the thread, the one who wove silence between sounds so the world could breathe. But it listened too long to its own stillness and mistook quiet for peace. He looked out the lighthouse window toward the glinting sea. Now it calls to sailors through calm water and storm alike. It promises rest and takes voices as payment. Pip whistled low. Bad customer service. Brine's mouth curved faintly. Aye, you've felt it already, haven't you? Eldan hesitated. It knows my name. Then it's watching. Brine turned to Lyra. And it'll try to divide your harmony. Be louder together than it is alone. Lyra glanced at Eldan. We're getting good at that. Brine led them up the last spiral to the balcony. From there, fur float stretched beneath them, bridges like woven ribbons, sails drying in sun, and the ocean beyond, gleaming deceptively calm. Look there, Brine said, pointing with his cane. Far offshore, the waves formed faint, concentric circles, glowing gold, fading, then reforming, like a heartbeat under the surface. The tide nexus, he said. The pearl listens through it. That's where the Whisperer hides its echo now. Lyra squinted. How far? Farther than most, return from, Brine said. But if the pearl won't clear, the sea will tear itself in halves. We'll lose the currents that bind the realms. Eldan watched the shimmering rings. Then we go there. Pip nearly dropped his wrench. Now? Lyra looked at the horizon, then back at the lighthouse. We'll need the fleet. The sea listens best when it's surrounded by courage. Brine nodded approval. Tonight's the festival of sails. Perfect time for foolish bravery. He limped to the pearl, resting a paw against its cloudy glow. Take its blessing. A soft vibration rippled through the floor as a filament of light slid from the pearl and coiled around Eldan's shard, binding for a moment before fading. The shard's tone deepened, resonating faintly with the sea. The realms are remembering each other, Brine murmured. Keep them talking. They left the lighthouse as the sun began to lower, coloring the water in brass and rose. Lanterns were being strung from mast to mast, and laughter spilled from the docks like a rising tide. Mara met them halfway down the pier, tail wagging once. Well? Eldan held up the shard, now pulsing with a slow golden beat. We have a destination. Mara's smile thinned. You're aiming for the Nexus. Lyra nodded. We'll need every ship that can still float. Then we sail at sunset, Mara said. The festival becomes a fleet. Pip punched the air. Finally, a plan with equal parts glory and disaster. As they walked toward the harbor, the first drums began, a low, steady rhythm that matched the heartbeat of the Pearl. The air filled with song, sailors tuning, flutes testing, laughter weaving between chords. Lyra elbowed Eldan. You nervous? Only entirely, he said. She smiled. Good. Means you'll listen properly. They reached the water's edge, where the first ships waited. Bows painted with symbols of tides and constellations, sails patched but proud. Above them, the lighthouse shone its beam over the sea, steady and pale. Eldan looked out to where the golden rings shimmered faintly in the distance. The shard hummed against his ribs like a quiet drum. The whisperer's voice drifted in with the breeze, soft as lullaby. Why keep chasing? You've already heard enough. Eldan closed his eyes, feeling Lyra beside him. Mara's steady command voice in the background, the city's laughter blending into music. Not yet, he whispered. We haven't heard everything. The whisperer sighed like receding surf. Then I'll be waiting. Eldan opened his eyes to the horizon, where sails flared like white petals against the setting sun. Night gathered slowly, and the first stars blinked awake above the sea. From the decks, torches were lit, bells tuned, and voices rose in anticipation. The festival rhythm spread through the canals and out into the bay, a single living pulse. Eldan stood on the dock, the shard glowing softly through his vest. Lyra struck her tuning fork once, the note clear and pure. It echoed through the masts, a promise to the sea itself. Brine's voice carried from the lighthouse balcony, sing not to be heard, but to remember you can. The fleet answered with a roar of drums and cheers. Eldan smiled, closing his paw around the acorn charm at his neck. The seed tapped twice, the same rhythm as the shard's pulse. Forest, mountain, and sea, 3 notes in the same chord. Ahead, the horizon shimmered with faint gold, the tide nexus waiting like a heartbeat too long between beats. Eldan exhaled, feeling the world lean toward listening. Let's go teach the sea its song.